Welcome to the More Life, Less Drama podcast with mindset expert and master executive coach, Prue Sulicic, who will teach you how to finish your first goal and then every goal using her simple, proven formula. If you're ready to live more life, have more fun, and reach your potential with less drama, you're in the right place.
Hello, welcome to the podcast family. We are up to episode 71 and I'm really excited to have you here as usual. And today we're going to be talking about something that you might understand but haven't given a lot of thought to, and that is that you know enough. I'm going to say it again. You know enough, especially when it comes to achieving your goals. Just imagine if you believed that you knew enough to start, because starting is literally the only thing that you need to know how to do, or to actually do, is to start and step into doing something that is going to create the life that you want. Because if you never start, my friends, as much as I know that you know this, if you never start, you are never going to finish. And what stops you from starting is a thought, I don't know enough. And believe me, I have been there so many times where I just didn't think I knew enough about anything to start. But for some reason, I have a higher inclination to take action. If you've done anything like me and done all those personality charts and all the things where they like put you into categories of how you think and how your behavior is, mine is always a high action behavior and low thinking and feeling. Would you believe it? So I have an insight into this. I am a high action taker and I don't overthink a lot, and this is something that I can help you with, because a lot of the people that I work with, and you might be one of them, that you overthink a lot. You think to yourself, I don't know enough, I haven't got enough information, I don't know how, and that stops you from taking that first step. But I'm going to rewind and say, if you don't ever take that first step into your goals, you will never finish them. Like, I'm 100% certain that's going to happen. If 0 steps are taken, 0 goals will be achieved. And if you remember a few podcasts ago, I talk about what it actually looks like from going from 0 goals to your first goal achieved. And it's basically taking action. It's taking one small step into action to get you started and to build the momentum to finish all your goals, to cross the finish line of your goals. So when you're telling yourself that you don't know enough, it's just another buffering technique to not take action. And we are great. Look, we are so great at buffering techniques. I'm just going to run you through a few others that I know you know already, but I'm going to just share them with you again, because sometimes you just need to hear them again. So I actually have, how many do I have here? I've got 10. I've got 10 things that you could do that will stop you from taking action into starting your goal, because I want you to know that you know enough to start your goal. Like, let's just think about it for a second before I get into those 10 steps. Do you know how to create lists? Do you know how to research on the internet? Do you know how to use a calendar? Like, even if it's just not a digital calendar, if it's a calendar that's just written, do you know how to use that? Do you know how to research the information that you might need? And do you know, like, say if you've got a health goal, do you know what works for you? Do you know what doesn't work for you? Do you know how to do the things at work? Do you know how to ask questions if you don't know how to do the things at work? And so I'm just trying to give examples of, you know how to do this already. And even if you don't know, you know how to get to the next step. But so many things are holding you back. Okay, let's have a look at this list of 10. So the number one thing that will stop you from stepping into action and believing that you know enough is the fear of failure. And like I said, I've said these similar things on many podcasts, but I'm going to repeat it because I know not everybody listens to every single podcast. And I know sometimes you just need to hear the same thing over and over and over again until one day you'll be like, ping, that makes so much sense. I needed to hear it on this particular day for it to land. So I'm happy over here to repeat myself, to go blue in the face, saying the same things, but it's me being on my high horse. I know this stuff works, so I'm going to keep repeating it until it lands for you. So back to fear of failure. You worry that if you try, you might not succeed. And you're like, oh, that's going to make me look like a fool. Or I'm going to waste money, I'm going to waste time. It's just going to confirm all my doubts that I have about myself that I can't do it. And so you've got this fear of failure of not letting you even start your goal. The second one is perfectionism. And it's funny because I never thought that I even fitted into this category, but I've got my own flavour of it for sure, and possibly you do too. So it's when you think that everything needs to be perfect before you start to do something. So you've got to have all your ducks lined up in a row, everything's got to be sorted, you're going to know everything exactly how it's going to pan out, or have everything looking a particular way or feeling a particular way or sounding a particular way depending on your system that you love to work with. And the truth is, there is no such thing as perfection. So you're striving for an unattainable goal, which therefore just allows you to fail in advance without even trying anything. So that will stop you as well. And then there's the next one, which is such a familiar old friend. And I know that it is a friend to you as well, and that is overwhelm. So when the task or the goal feels too big or too complicated or just feels impossible, you just tell yourself you don't know enough and I don't know where to start. So you know what? I'm just going to put it over there. Whether it be physically putting it over there or putting it over there in your mind, you decide, look, I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. I don't know where to start. I don't think I know enough. So I'm just going to stop. So I'm certain that one is your friend as well. Your very familiar friend that keeps you safe and in a little bubble of not taking action for fear of failure or fear of not getting it perfect. Then there is the lack of clarity. So sometimes we delay in taking that first step because we tell ourselves we don't know enough, and that comes from not having clarity. So if you are unsure about where you're going or what even your next step is, you will most likely do nothing. If you don't have a game plan or an idea of where you want to get to, of course, your brain is just going to offer up to you that you have no idea what you're doing and you shouldn't even be in the game. And honestly, the lack of clarity can be a real double-edged sword, because I do believe that you need to have some sort of clarity to step forward. But again, there's this other part of me that thinks sometimes you just have to start messy and just get into it, even when you don't have clarity. So maybe the lack of clarity is the thing that's stopping you from achieving your goals or starting your goals. Then the next one is comparison to others. Oh yes, I still do this. And it's like, why am I doing this? Why can't I race my own race and not worry about anybody else? But again, human nature is it's inbuilt into my system that, I'm going to look at myself and look at others and compare the two. So we look at others that are further along and we think we're just not good enough. We're not smart enough, we don't know enough, or we're not skilled enough in comparison to them. And so why should I even start? It's like, throw your hands up in the air before you even begin, because you're like, well, someone else is doing it better and they're rocking it, there's no space for me. That might be a thought that goes through your mind as well. Then you have procrastination habits. Yes, this again is another old friend of mine. I do like to say that I'm recovering from procrastination because it is a practice that I have been working to overcome for so many years. And look, it shows up. Occasionally it's been showing up really quite intently this last month or two. The thing is though, I don't step back into the thought that I am a procrastinator. I don't attach it to my identity. I just realize that something's going on in my mind that is triggering a heap of feelings, and the procrastination is actually in the action line and it's just stopping me from taking action. And so when we release that from our identity, we can actually work through that. So the procrastination habit is when we are in the habit of putting things off for later. What I find the most is, because I work with people with personal goals generally, and it's for them, like this goal is usually for them, the motivation to put yourself first and to step away from the habit of procrastination is harder. I find it's harder when it's for you. If someone else is waiting for something and you need to get them a document, or you need to finish some work for somebody else, or you need to show up for somebody else, you find that it's easier to show up for somebody else than it is for yourself. So just take note. Is that you? Do you only procrastinate when you are doing something for yourself, or is it all the time? Because there is a difference. Like, there is an absolute difference, and to understand it actually will help you solve for it later on. The next thing that stops you from showing up and thinking that you don't know enough is that you are comfortable with the status quo. Like, even when you want something to be different, the comfort of the familiar will make you resist the change, keeping you stuck in the same place because it's comfortable there. And I talk about this all the time, about stepping into the discomfort of change, because change is really uncomfortable. You're stepping out of the status quo into something new, and man, your brain and all the neurons and all the things going on in there are going off because your alert systems are firing on all cylinders, going, please don't do this. Like, change is scary, change is bad, it could get you killed. So let's just go back over here where it's safe and comfortable. And we keep reverting back to our old selves and the old procrastination habits that we've got, or the old fear of success that we have, or just all those things of comparing each other, comparing ourselves to somebody else. That feels comfortable. We've done it for so long. Why stop now? But I know you want change, and that's the difference. How can we get out of the status quo into what we truly want and show up for ourselves the most? Because ideally, that's what it should be all about. It shouldn't be that you show up for everybody else. It should be that you show up for yourself first in the most profound way that creates the difference in your life first, and then it ripples out, not the opposite. The next thing is external opinions. Man, oh man. Sometimes I wish I could just put myself into a bubble and I don't hear anybody else's opinions about anything, unless of course I want them. But most of the time we get a lot of feedback from people that we don't want feedback from, whether it be out in the world, our family, random people's opinions, even just on news stories. Like, sometimes I take on things that aren't even in my immediate world and take them on as feedback. If somebody else is being criticized for something and it's maybe something that I do as well, I'm like, oh God, it really stops me dead in my tracks. And I actually was doing a lot of work around that particular thing this week, because I had my coach say to me that she feels really resilient. And my immediate reaction was, oh my God, no, I'm so the opposite of resilient. And it just got me thinking, it's like, oh wow, is that really true? Are you really not resilient, Prue? And there's a whole lot of stories that are in there about me not being resilient because I'm soft and I can't take feedback very well, and I cry a lot if somebody speaks to me in a hard tone, or a tone that is not kind and empathetic and supporting. If someone comes at me and is stern with me, I crumble. So if you ever want to know how to get under my skin or make me sad, that's how you do it. You come at me and you say things to me in a tone that doesn't feel kind. And because of that, I go immediately to, I'm not resilient. But the truth is, I am so resilient. I'm so resilient, and I'm sure you are too, because everything that has come up, I have gotten through. I'm not laying on, the floor, a mess, curled up in the fetal position because of things that have happened to me. I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm still stepping into the person that I want to be and practicing all these scary things, even though I could potentially be criticized. That's resilience. But when we are fearing the external opinions of others and allowing that to stop us from showing up into being our true selves, that's being defeated. So I want you to figure out if that's the thing that is stopping you. Is it the fear of judgment from others? Maybe it's criticism, maybe it's judgment, maybe it's rejection. And all those things can be so, so painful, and it'll also keep you stuck in the same place that you don't want to be. Okay, number 10 is the last one, and this could also really stop you from stepping into saying yes to yourself, saying, you know what, I'm going to push outside my comfort zone, start this goal even though I don't know what's ahead, and stepping into the belief that you do know enough to achieve it, and that is low self-confidence. This is a real killer of success. The lack of belief in yourself and your ability can make you doubt whether you're capable of achieving your goal. And because of that, you hesitate to start. Building up your confidence can be a real game changer in achieving your goals. It's one of those things. It's not an outside job. You have to do it from the inside out, not the outside in. And so, there's so much work to do. So is one of those 10 things stopping you? Maybe it's one. Maybe one was really highlighted. Maybe it was all of them on some level. Like, I resonate with all of them for sure. But there's ones more than others. So just have a think about it. I'm just going to read them back to you really quickly. The fear of failure, perfectionism, overwhelm, lack of clarity, comparison to others, fear of success. Oh, actually, I think I missed that one. So fear of success is number 6. I did miss that one. It may sound strange, but some people fear the changes that success might bring, new responsibilities and expectations from others, so they don't start and don't achieve their goals because of that fear. So that's number 6. Then 7 was procrastination habits. Number 8, comfort in the status quo. And number 9 is external opinions. And number 10 was low confidence. Okay, so just have a think. Have a think now. Which one resonates with you the most that stops you from believing that you know enough and you can start achieving your goals? Because if we're talking about you not feeling like you know enough, I'm just going to throw out a truth here. The truth is that, have you ever felt 100% prepared for anything? I'm pretty sure the answer most likely is no. Even when we have prepared so well, we can never feel 100% prepared, because we can only do what's in our control in that moment. And there are so many variables that are outside our control. And therefore, that means that being 100% prepared is just one of the, it's like perfectionism. It's just impossible. So I'm just wondering, have you ever thought to yourself, I nailed that because I was 100% prepared? And great if you have. Fantastic if there has been a time in your life that you're like, yep, that was it. That was the time. I just want you to pull on those memories right now and be like, okay, has there ever been a time that you felt like you knew enough and that you were prepared? Like, even go back to our schooling years when we are doing exams. Sometimes we studied all term and all year for an exam, and you are still going into the exam, I just know enough. Like, I never walked into an exam like that. I always walked into an exam quite anxious that I didn't know enough, even though I prepared as much as I could. Because the truth is, you don't know what's on the exam. You get practice tests and you can revise all your work, but you don't exactly know what the answers are. So how can you be 100% prepared? So one of the big things that I notice of people having this thought is the fear of embarrassment. It is one of the things that stops people from taking that first step. And if you're thinking to yourself, there's no way I'm doing that because I don't know enough. I've got to gather more information or have more practice or get more resources. Then the fear of embarrassment might be another one that will stop you. We all know that feeling of being embarrassed. It is the worst. It feels like shame, and it feels very visible. Like it feels like you are seen in the worst possible way ever. And you're like, you can't take that back. When you feel embarrassed about something, you might have other thoughts like, oh geez, I just ruined my reputation. I'm so embarrassed, like they're going to think of me in this way now. And it might be the way that is not very nice. It might be a way that you think about yourself internally, but then maybe it's been externalized. So the fear of embarrassment might lead to you wanting to do things with perfection, having the most knowledge that you possibly can, so you just don't put yourself into that situation. And I'm here to tell you that, look, embarrassment is just a feeling. It really is. All these things that I've talked about are just feelings in your body. And if we really tap into that, it's like a feeling is simply a vibration in your body. The vibration is never going to kill you, ever. I just want you to sit with that for a minute. It is never going to kill you. It's not even going to harm you. You might have elevated stress levels and heart flutters and like a sick feeling in your stomach even, but it is never going to actually harm you. And what you do with that depends, because you can take it two ways. So you can actually internalize it and let yourself go down a rabbit hole of emotion and end up feeling a lot of shame, or you can process it through. Just feel it all the way through until it leaves your body and you are so compassionate with yourself that you can actually allow it to leave. Most people hold on to these things, but allowing it to leave is a possibility. It's always possible for an emotion to leave your body. Have a think about that. How many times have you held on to an emotion? And now think of the times where you have let things go really quickly. It is possible either way, and it's up to you. So not knowing is just a roadblock for you. It's another thing to stop you from all those things that we talked about before, those 10 points, plus the fear of embarrassment. And we can look at it like a roadblock, like it's stopping you dead in the road and like it's like, oh well, can't go any further. Or we can reframe it and think of it like a speed bump. Okay, it slowed us down. Yes, we had like an emotional charge and it stopped us from taking action, but it's just a speed bump, and look, it slowed us down and we're just going to go steady for a moment to get over the speed bump. We're going to give ourselves some compassion and some time to heal and process, and then we can speed up again. And you can look at it like that too. Again, that option is on the table for you as well. So you don't have to know everything. As much as your mind screams at you that you do, you just don't need to know everything. It's impossible to know everything. You just have to know enough to take the first step. And maybe it's exactly what you know already. Maybe you don't need any more information. What about if you just gave yourself permission to start anyway? Even if you have a thought, I don't know enough, maybe just giving yourself permission to be like, you know what? I might not know enough yet, but I'm just going to start with what I know right now. And often we are waiting to feel totally secure before we act on anything, but that day never comes. Instead, what really happens and where the real transformation happens is when you act despite the uncertainty. Like you step into courage before you even know how to do that, before you even know how to get results, before you even know exactly what the finish line looks like. You actually just step into action despite the uncertainty. Oh, God, I love that. I feel like I do that really well, and it's why I want to teach you this as well. So instead of thinking, what if I don't know enough? Maybe you could try, what if I already know what I need to take the first step? It's just like a slight reframe. So what if I don't know enough can turn into, what if I already know what I need to take the first step? And chances are you know already. Like think right now, What is the goal on your goal sheet that you haven't yet started? What is it? And think to yourself, do you know what you need to take the first step? What is it? What is that one thing? It might just be you need to buy a certain product. It might be that you need to join the gym. It might be to put your sneakers on and walk out the door. You might already know what you need, but you're just holding yourself back because you're thinking, I just don't know enough yet. Maybe you're going through hormonal stages in your life similar to me, and you could think to yourself, I can't do anything until I get to the doctor and get all my blood work done and figure out where my hormones are at and do all these tests. And that's the thing that stops you. You think, I can't do anything until that happens. But really, if you're struggling with sleep, maybe you could meditate before bed. Maybe you could buy one of those spiky mats. That's what I did this week. I bought a spiky mat to lay on before bed. I make sure I walk out the door and get some exercise every day. Things like that. What's the first thing that you can do? What do you know that you could do that you know already that doesn't require waiting for anything else? You know enough. What is that one thing? I've been delaying a lot of action and binging TV. Grey's Anatomy is the flavour of the day at the moment. And I tell you what, there's a lot to binge. There are a lot of seasons, a lot of episodes in every season. So watch out, there's a lot of TV time. And believe me, it's not something that I'm super proud of, but I'm okay to share it with you because I know you go through these same phases. And it's all about being real and honest and showing up with authenticity and just letting you know that, hey, this is normal. Even someone like me that has done a lot of work on myself and a lot of work on my mindset, I still have these low impact phases that I go through, which was last week's episode. So back to binging TV. There is a point to this. So Grey's Anatomy, as you might know, it's all about hospitals and surgeons in particular. In the show, there was a new surgeon who was observing the lead surgeon do some sort of surgery. In that moment, the lead surgeon said to the new surgeon, hey, I want you to do this technique. And so the newbie surgeon was like, oh, really? Oh, I don't know if I can do that. I've never done that before. And the lead surgeon is like, well, you never know how to do it until you actually do it. And this is practice, okay? And so they're practicing on live people. Like surgeons out in the world, all over the country and all over the world are practicing on real people. And in that moment, put it into perspective for me because I'm like, wow, surgeons are practicing on real people and there is literally life and death in those moments. Like if they do that stitch wrong and it doesn't hold their artery or whatever they're trying to, clip off, it could kill a person. And I just thought, and I just had this huge sigh of relief of like, thank God I'm not practicing on people's lives like that. I don't have people's lives in my hands. And immediately it made me feel like I had been indulging in my own negative thoughts and that I had been fearful of showing up because of the fear of failure, particularly, and embarrassment. That if I did something, I wouldn't do it well, and then I would be embarrassed or shameful that I didn't do it well. But watching that show that day just made me realize how small my problems are. I'm like, man, this is not about life and death. Yes, I believe that the work that I do is really important and I change people's lives, but I'm literally not standing there holding a scalpel, cutting into somebody's body and potentially killing them if I don't know enough. Then I'm like, of course, I know enough to start. And if I don't know enough, I'm happy to learn on the fly. Unlike the surgeon, they need to know enough. Like there are certain circumstances in life, right, where you need to know enough to start, and the surgeon is one of them, but there are very few other things. And like bringing it right down, I work with people just like you that want to achieve personal goals. They want to lose weight. They want to get healthier. They want to plan for an overseas trip. They want to increase their business capacity. They want to figure out something in their business or their life. They want to build better relationships. Yes, these are life-changing experiences, but they're not life or death experiences. So having that show that day, thank you Grey's Anatomy, because it just gave me perspective, and I hope it's giving you perspective as well. It just instantly calmed me down and took me out of fear of getting it wrong. Once I reminded myself of this, that I know enough to help people, I can then start taking action again. So the action line becomes filled with things rather than just one thing, procrastination. Okay, so I know enough to start. And the truth is, look, if you're out there learning and going through all the courses and doing all the things that you think you need to do, reading all the self-development books, the point is that you can't theorize forever. At some point, you have to take what you know already and believe it is enough. Because it is enough. You don't know what you don't know. And if you're just randomly out there trying to gather information to cover up that fear of embarrassment, of success, of failure, of negative thinking, of overwhelm, you will never be able to prove to yourself that you are so capable. I know you're capable, but you just don't believe that yet. So the main takeaway is it's impossible to see the steps ahead without taking the very first step. And to take the first step takes a lot of courage, I know. But it comes from a thought, I believe I know enough. So I have an exercise for you that you can do to help you step into taking action rather than holding on to those procrastination habits and staying in the thought that I need to know more before I start. It's 4 steps. I'm just going to read them to you, and then I want you to go out and do them straight away. It's really important to take quick action here and not to stay in overthinking. You have to actually step into action to make them a reality in your life. So here are the 4 things that I want you to do. First, I want you to write down one thing you've been putting off because you don't know enough. What's one thing? Number 2 is break it into a small first step. What can you do today with what you already know? And it doesn't have to be big, just enough to get you started. Step number 3 is then each day note down one small step you can take, like just one teeny baby step that you can take, and put it somewhere that you can see it. And once you've completed it, put it somewhere that you can accumulate all those things. So I call this the proof jar, and it is part of the proof jar method that I've got, but this is just like an even dialed down version of that. So put it somewhere that you can fill up and see the proof building. So as you can tell, this is building proof that you can move forward with what you have, because I want you to build the belief that you know enough already to start. And it's so true. Like, I 100% believe you know enough to start anything. Seriously, you do. You have it in you already. You just need to take action. And this process is going to help you take action. So then at the end of the week, I want you to get that jar and look back at all the proof that you've created. You don't need to know everything. You just need to start. And this will be an accumulation of all the things that you did that started. And you never know what will happen. Momentum might happen. Momentum might be like, oh wow, like I do know this first step, and then the second step will appear, and then the third step will appear after that, and then all of a sudden you're on step 56 and you're like, wow, I actually did it. I know enough to start, and I actually made some progress. And that's what I want for you. I want you to step into having some progress, because I know that you don't want to be stuck anymore. That's the 4 steps. I'll run through quickly again what they were. Step 1, write down one thing you've been putting off because you don't know enough. Step 2, break it into a small first step. What can you do today? Today being the most important part, with what you already know. Remember, it doesn't have to be big, just enough to get started. Step 3 is each day, note down one small step you can take. Write it down, and once you complete it, put it into a jar. Step 4 is at the end of the week, look back at all the proof you've created. Celebrate a little bit, like look at all of them, count them up, see how many you've actually created in one week, because you might want to do more than one once a day. Because remember, you don't need to know everything, you just need to start. So that's the whole idea about stepping into the belief that you know enough. Fantastic. I really hope you step in and take this practice seriously, because as small as it seems and that it is, these are the things that will be the most significant for you to do in your life. These small steps are the biggest things that will make the difference in the long term. It's building the foundations. And if this resonated with you, and if you're tired of waiting until you're like feel ready or believe that you've got enough information to take any action, I want to invite you into the Finishers Club. Inside, I will teach you how to take those small, manageable steps over and over, even when fear and doubt creeps in. The promise is that inside the Finishers Club, I will help you finish your first 4-week intentional goal. And I say intentional on purpose because maybe you finished lots of things in the past, but you just didn't know how. Inside the Finishers Club, we will teach you the process that you can use on repeat to keep showing up and finishing things, even when you don't want to. Even when that doubt creeps in, even when the fear of embarrassment and success and failure creeps in. So that's my promise to you. You don't need to do it alone. That's why I created the Finishers Club. I'm here to support you to finishing what you start, and I have built a beautiful community of people that are all doing the same thing, and I would love to see you in there. And if you want to get started, all the links will be inside the show notes of this episode. Okay, my friends, that is it. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, you know enough. Okay, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening to More Life, Less Drama. If you're ready to finish your goals, Prue invites you to join her inside the Finishers Club, where you will learn how to finish your first intentional goal, the hardest part, then complete every goal you set your mind to using her simple formula. Visit head-coach.com.au to get started today.